Hi all. So guys, apparently Taylor Swift is actually getting married at Madison Square Garden. And I swear to God, I can't believe that this is reality. I first heard the story first it was like blind items, then it was TMZ, but then it's People, and now there's like permits being taken out to like lock up the block. I can't believe that this is actually reality. And it makes me really deeply sad, okay? I know I've said this before, and I'll say this again. I actually do consider myself to be a fan of Taylor's. I have watched her career and her relationships evolved over time. And I cannot help but say that I actually truly do feel sad that this wedding is actually happening. I don't want to be someone like raining on someone else's parade. And, you know, if she likes it, I love it, I suppose. But I do want to talk about why the whole thing has made me uneasy. I want to put my 2 cents in once and for all, okay? I think right now, to me, Taylor Swift seems hollowed out. And that's the way that I would put it. I especially noticed it during the Eras Tour documentary, where it seems as if she has ceded her humanity in its fullness completely to Taylor Swift TM, okay? And I think that that is actually kind of sad. I think that that happened. I've said this before, I will say it again. I do think that the loss of her relationship with Joe Alwyn, followed by the humiliation that was getting ghosted by Maddie Healy, really did something to Taylor cognitively, while also being on the Eras Tour and having to put on a show and having to do it with a broken heart and having to put on that brave face. I almost think that performing that sort of impenetrable version of Taylor that is fully Taylor Swift the brand, regardless of how Taylor Swift the human being is feeling, is something that has taken over her as a human being. Taylor's romantic relationships up until Travis have not been part of Taylor Swift the brand. They have been material that Taylor Swift the brand has pulled from in order to create her music, but they themselves, it itself, has not been the brand. That has not been the brand itself, okay? Like, her relationships were hers, and the Taylor Swift thing was the Taylor Swift thing. And there was never a time in her career where those two things were more separate than her relationship with Joe, which was largely a private relationship. Oftentimes, Taylor, in a lot of interviews, she seems a lot of times to be like shading Joe and shading the fact that he like kept her in the house, kept her inside, all these different things. Here's the thing, that is revisionist history, okay? Because during the time when Taylor and Joe got together, Taylor had genuinely gotten burned by the public eye via the whole Snakegate, Kanye, Kim Kardashian thing. And that had generally made her pull back from the public and pull into this bubble that she was in with Joe Alwyn. Over time, as things happened, she evolved and she changed and her needs changed. And as such, the relationship was not as good of a fit anymore. But the thing about Joe that I think is fundamentally different than Travis is I think that Travis is about the fame. I think he's about the fame. I think he's about being seen. I think that's why he was basically like crunching a beer can on his head and like pounding his chest at like the basketball game she was at a couple weeks back or whatever. Joe wasn't about that. He was about her legacy, but he wasn't about the whole fame thing. And that is fundamentally different than what Travis is, okay? I am deeply skeptical that someone who loves fame as much as Travis Kelsey does, someone who has pursued fame, who has had reality shows, who's been on like podcasts and like wanted to grow his star as big as he possibly could, and loves attention as much as he loves attention, I have a lot of difficulty believing that someone like Travis loves Taylor for Taylor and not for what she offers him, okay? And not for what she does for his brand and for his visibility. That's my opinion. It's just what I think, okay? And part of the evidence I feel that way, and people don't like talking about this, but I guess I'm gonna say it. Listen, the women who Travis dated previously had very little in common with Taylor Swift. And I'm not just saying racially. I'm also saying in terms of energy, right? But there's something that those women did not have that Taylor Swift has, which is a profound and remarkable amount of fame. Okay. And I sometimes feel as if Travis has modified his tastes in order to gain the thing that he's always been searching for and wanting. And the thing too is about when it comes to Taylor Swift ceding herself completely to Taylor Swift TM. Part of Taylor Swift TM is her parents and her family, right? Her relationship with Travis Kelsey was literally set up by her family. I actually called this before the Eras Tour documentary even came out, and Andrea Swift literally said verbatim what I had called, which Andrea Swift herself said that she said to Taylor after the failure of her relationship with Joe and then Maddie, that Taylor, you have to try something different, right? And I have a hard time believing that anybody whose child is as famous as Taylor is and whose parents have been involved in the business side of things as long as they have been, that they are fully only thinking about her, especially when they're picking romantic partners. And I don't think that's unreasonable, right? That's not necessarily like that harsh of a critique, right? But I do think that Travis does something to kind of codify the Miss Americana brand that is fundamental to the Taylor Swift identity. And her kind of ending up with the football player kind of completes this sort of high school fantasy love story that her brand has been caught up in and she has been caught up in. And I think that there is a sort of brand synergy that happened with both Taylor and Travis that has profited both Taylor and Travis, and as such, all the people who are part of Taylor Swift TM exponentially, and has raised her level of stardom to a level that it previously was not otherwise, okay? And I think that on a subconscious level, Taylor knows that this is about Taylor Swift the brand, and it's not really about love, okay? I think that the song Elizabeth Taylor itself is kind of a tell, right? Elizabeth Taylor is a woman who's been married like, I don't know, 7, 8 times. Or Elizabeth Taylor, do you think it's forever? There's part of her that I think deep down knows that this marriage is happening for the wrong reasons. But I think that there's a deep-seated part of her that just does not want to fail, right? She's come this far. She's a woman of a certain age. And the relationship that she thought was her end-all be-all failed. And then the second relationship she thought was her end-all be-all also failed spectacularly. And now she has this thing and this guy who at least is in her face telling her that he is the future and he is going to be the forever guy. And I think that there's a desperation to believe it and perform the end-all be-all love story that does not feel congruent with reality. And quite frankly, I think that that is part of the reason why she and Travis have been so in our face over the past couple month or so, right? Like, she's been everywhere. She's been doing hella pap walks. You know, they've been going to games. There've been a lot of public sightings, and there's been so much leaked about this wedding, right? So much information leaked about this wedding. And then with it culminating with something that feels, honestly, when I first heard it, unbelievable, that she's literally getting married at Madison Square Garden. Like, I actually can't believe that that's happening. It to me is like the cherry on the cake of this whole thing being a performance. Guys, now that we know that this fuck-ass Madison Square Garden 4th of July, America's 250th birthday ass wedding is actually happening, I don't know, girl. Like, I feel sad for Taylor, but I also think like the desperation for like attention is like a little bit much. It's embarrassing. It's actually embarrassing. How about that? I think it's gross. I think it's tacky. What the fuck are you doing an MSG wedding? Okay? Yo, okay, let me just be honest, guys. I'm actually trying to be like reserved. I'm trying to be reserved. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be like emotional and sensitive because I actually do like at some level in a parasocial way like care about this woman. But like, what the actual is she doing? What is going on? Who are you? What are you trying to prove? I don't know. Anyway, it's embarrassing. That's what I gotta say. And it truly saddens me deeply. Because the thing is, you know, Tom Holland and Zendaya are right there, girl. They clearly were are A plus list people, right? Who were able to get married in total secrecy and have us find out as like an afterthought because they wanted their romance to be about them and not about all the public's projections. Taylor Swift has taken the direct opposite route, where it's almost as if she is performing this thing so big and so loud, almost as if the public's projections on their love and their belief, and almost like it's like an argument, like convincing us that this thing is real, is going to make it more real. But I don't think it does make it more real. I think it makes it more questionable. Honestly, I feel really sad and sorry for Taylor, you know? I am not going to lie, I do feel that this marriage is a mistake. I think that the person she's choosing to marry is wanting to marry her for secondary gain and not for love. And I think that Taylor is afraid to fail. I also think that Taylor is deep down is trapped by the level of her fame and her stardom, actually. She's got a lot of planets, depending on what rising sign you think she is. She's got a lot of planets in the 12th house, which kind of literally, like, you know, is a house of, like, institutionalization and, like, imprisonment, okay? I mean, she herself, even in songs like Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, have talked about how trapped that she feels inside the sort of fame monster that she's engulfed in. And I think that in marrying Travis Kelsey, she's, like, I don't know, like, adding more bars to the cage and locking herself in it and basically throwing away the key, making her entire life into a performance And so much so that I don't even know if she even knows what the real Taylor is or what the real Taylor wants anymore. And I find that to be really sad. And, but you know, who am I, right? I'm just an outsider. I don't know her, right? So maybe everything I'm saying is wrong and is bullshit. And quite frankly, for her sake, I hope that I am wrong. But it seems that this wedding is happening. It seems that it's happening next week, and it seems that it's happening at MSG, which is alarming and frightening and sad to me. But I don't know. Like I said, if she likes it, I love it. So it is what it is. I hope I'm wrong about this. I hope I'm misreading it. But my intuition's pretty sharp, and I kind of doubt that I am. But who knows? The gray area is where the truth lives. Come with me next time, and I'll meet you there. Bye.